So as the season comes to a close, I've been reviewing a lot of different players' FNCS games, and I've noticed that one of the biggest themes that a lot of teams struggle with is getting enough Storm Surge tags to last them the entire game. So in today's video, I'm going to be covering exactly how to get the most amount of Storm Surge tags using 3 different methods. Be sure to use code Sonata YT in the Fortnite item shop if you guys do want to support me. Let's hop right into it. So to begin, I want to go over something that all players should be doing regardless of the method that you choose to use later on. I want to highlight the fact that you guys should try to land early at your drop spot and then try to initially get tags on people flying to other POIs. I would recommend you do this with weapons such as the Ranger Assault Rifle, pistols, SMGs if you want to. Anything that you can actually hit an opponent with from far away, maybe try to get some tags on them. Initially, this is just going to start you off with some tags for the early game. Those tags are going to last you the rest of the game and already give you an edge up on the rest of the players in the lobby. And then secondly, if there is 70 Surge in your game, you're most definitely going to be successful with that, simply because you're getting the tags early on. I'd also recommend that if you guys can try to land at a POI where you're able to have a winnable off-spawn fight almost every time. Essentially what I mean by this is land at a place that is not too contested, but is definitely contested by one team at least, in order to try to eliminate them and get their damage as your Storm Surge tags. However, quickly before I get into that, I want to highlight some things on the brand new Storm Surge changes that took place this season. So you guys are going to be seeing an image up here on screen comparing the old changes to the new ones. Essentially now Storm Surge is going to be a lot more common and pop up a lot more. What this means is that less players are going to be required in order for Storm Surge to activate. I think the reason that Epic Games is trying to change this is simply to limit the amount of performance lag that you have in the servers. So when you play a game, there's going to be less people alive, therefore resulting in less builds and less animations, resulting in more FPS and less input delay for everybody in the lobby. Now, a lot of Fortnite pros have highly praised this new Storm Surge change, and I think the biggest issue with this is that all of the brain dead players really don't know how to play anymore. You need to be a smart player in order to survive in the modern day with your Storm Surge, and that's what I'm going to try to help you guys with using these 3 primary strategies. So the first type of primary surge plan that I'm going to be going over is known as a surge route. If you guys play competitive Fortnite at a somewhat decent level, you guys have definitely heard of what a surge route is. But for those of you that don't know, this is where you create a dedicated route to actually getting Storm Surge. You have a set of routes that you and your team take, and that you vary based on the zone pool. You can rotate to different positions of elevation, advantage, and sight lines based upon the zone. And then once you position at this place, you look for tags on the enemy players rotating from other POIs. Now I'm going to be highlighting the pros and the cons of this strategy, as I will with the other 2 strategies. To start off, the pros of a surge route is that if the route is good, this method can be one of the most effective. It's also a very reliable way to get surge if the route is practiced in scrims. And then a lot of pro players use this, so it's going to be very easy to study other pro players and see what they do in order to get your surge route from them. Now, some cons for making a surge route, one of them would be that a bad surge route can lead to no surge and also bad positioning. It also gives you less ability to plan for all scenarios. And what I mean by that is that if your surge route doesn't work for some reason, like maybe a team doesn't rotate in a certain direction that you want them to, you're going to be once again left with bad positioning and no surge. And then forced to rotate in a bad position where you're going to not be getting surge even more. So while surge routes do have their pros and cons, it's up for you guys to decide if you want to use one. Now the second method of getting surge that I would recommend for you guys, this is going to be you fighting for surge. Now this is really heavily pioneered by the pro players who are very good at fighting. It's where you're going to be taking a fight during the mid game or early stages of the end game in order to get your Storm Surge damage out of the way. So the pros of fighting for surge is that if you are good at fighting, you can get your surge out of the way in a shorter amount of time and then play passive the rest of the game. Now this essentially gives you less to worry about in terms of getting kill points, in terms of getting your Storm Surge damage, and refreshing on loot. Those are all of the pros that you guys are going to be having if you do fight for surge. However, in terms of the cons, you definitely do need to be good at fighting. And the issue is that there's a greater risk if you guys are fighting for surge. If you get eliminated, then your game is over. If you decide to take a fight and then you lose a lot of health, a lot of resources, and you decide to disengage, you're going to be very scuffed for the rest of the game with also 0 surge. Now this creates a big issue for a lot of teams that aren't good at fighting. So if you're not good at fighting, I would highly recommend you do not fight for surge. But if any of the other apply to you, please consider this technique. I think it's one of the best for those of you that are very good fighters. Now, the third and final method that I would consider to be a very effective way of getting Storm Surge, this is going to be a rotation for tags. Now, this is kind of a hybrid between the whole surge route and the fighting for surge. This is where you're going to be rotating around the map in your normal fashion as if there's nobody else and Storm Surge doesn't exist. However, as soon as you see anybody walking around you, you try to shoot at them and get as many tags on them as possible. However, you don't box up. But the reason you don't want to box up is because if you box up, you encourage other people to either come and fight you while you're focused on shooting other players around the map. Now, the pros for this is that it lets you rotate without wasting too many materials. And it also gives you the positioning advantage on the opponents because you're rotating and getting to places earlier. However, the cons for this is that you will most likely get the least amount of surge. And it also is possible that you get W keyed based upon your pathing throughout the zones. And if you guys don't know what pathing is basically the direction that you go in order to get to where you want to be in the zone. Now let's say that your pathing takes you through a couple series of mountains, and you're trying to shoot down at people when you're on top of these mountains. What might end up happening is that you start shooting at these people, and then people from behind you sneak up the other side of the mountain and decide to fight you. Most of the time, people who are doing rotations for tags will sometimes get engaged by people who are fighting for surge. So it is quite important that you guys focus on really practicing this if you do want to rotate for your tags, because that's the only way that this method will truly be effective. But quite honestly guys, all of these 3 methods are extremely useful, and you pick which one that you like the most. But anyways guys, that is the video on how exactly to get Storm Surge in the best way possible. With these new updates, a lot of you guys are going to be struggling to get your Storm Surge, and I think that it's important that you guys learn exactly how to do so. I had a lot of fun making this video, simply because I took a bunch of different ideas from a bunch of different friends that play a lot of competitive, and they all told me what works really well for them, and what their experiences have been. But yeah, if you guys liked it, please let me know. But that's about it for this video guys. Be sure to like and subscribe to the channel, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye guys.